Hey, what's up guys? Joker here, and I hope you're all doing well as we've got a few news stories to get through today in the world of tech and PC gaming. We're going to be talking about add-in board cards for the upcoming AMD Navi 5700 series of GPUs. Also, Call of Duty Modern Warfare's new photogrammetry technique, which is going to make for some pretty hot graphics, I would imagine. And also, Intel has a new one-click overclocking tool, basically something motherboards have had forever. But first, today's video is brought to you by LevelGo.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro for under $16, Microsoft Office 2016 Professional Plus for under $40, and Microsoft Office 2019 for under $80. And if you use my code JSL22 at checkout, you can get 22% off of Windows 10, or use the code JSL16 to get 16% off of any software over on levelgo.com when you use the links down in the description below. So as I said, first we're going to start off talking about AMD Navi and the RX 5700 series of graphics cards. You guys know now that we are expected to see these cards launch on July 7th with reference models, which are unfortunately blower style cards, and also unfortunately the XT is the possibly most ugliest card ever to be released. Kind of looks like the back of a wrinkly ball sack that's been smashed with a hammer on the side. Don't really know what they were going for with that look, but the lower end 5700 actually looks way sexier. And also, besides the looks, which is subjective, of course, they are going back to a blower-style card, which is very unfortunate. And I reported back on this story all the way back on May 29th that we would not see add-in board cards until about 6 to 8 weeks after the launch of the reference Navi GPUs. And now we've got some further confirmation from that, because some of the add-in board partners, it sounds like behind closed doors, have been talking to some news outlets like Fudzilla and telling them that it's probably not going to be about mid-August till you start seeing some of the add-in board partner cards, and that could obviously go into as late as September and maybe even beyond for some other special board partner cards. So if you are going to be waiting for those dual fan, triple fan heatsink cards to get a Navi GPU, I wouldn't really keep an eye out for July 7th other than really to see the kind of base performance on these cards, and also to get a good idea of what the cooling is like and regular game performance compared up against the 2060s and the 2070s. But as an actual purchaser of a card, I think most people are probably going to want to go for an aftermarket design, as I'm thinking these cards are probably going to run a little bit toasty, not only because of the fact that it's using a blower style cooler, even though they have revamped it on the 5700 XT, adding things like a vapor chamber in there, which NVIDIA has had for a while, but that doesn't really bring down the temperatures that much. I still think these cards are going to run kind of hot, especially, like I said, the XT, which is, in case you didn't notice, is using two 8-pin power connectors. So this thing is going to be pulling some serious juice. Some hot, wet, sticky juice is going to be getting pulled by the 5700 XT. And I don't, I haven't used one myself. I don't know what the temperature is going to be like, but I think it's going to be kind of warm. I think it's going to be hot, loud, and warm. That's just my prediction right now. Would love to be proven wrong, but we'll just have to wait and see once these cards become available. And as I said, board partners are saying right now around mid-August for aftermarket cards, so you might not be seeing these cards, actually in your shopping cart until when you're getting ready to go back to school if you happen to be a student. So we'll keep you guys updated if anything happens from there. Next up, we've got to talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. This got its big reveal just prior to E3. Initially when I first heard about this game, I was like, ugh, I don't really need a reboot of Modern Warfare. I already played enough of that game. But everything they're doing so far with this game actually seems to be pretty good. They're finally bringing in a new engine. It's going to support DirectX ray tracing, which you may or may not care about, but the new engine is definitely exciting, and they're going to be using photogrammetry, which, if you're not familiar with, that is the same technique that has been used in the Star Wars Battlefront games, which give it such a realistic look. And those games actually perform really well despite the graphics being phenomenal. Despite what you may or not think of the gameplay of the Battlefront series, I personally was not a fan of Battlefront 1 or 2, the remakes. I like the originals, don't like the new ones, especially after the whole loot box controversy and all of that. That just made it kind of even worse, but I didn't really like the gameplay on the new ones either. Just felt really spammy, but that's besides the point. The point is the graphics. The graphics on those games are phenomenal. Some of the best looking games I've ever seen, and also the performance is not bad at all. I can run Battlefront 2 at 4K HDR max settings and get like 130 frames per second on a 2080 Ti. which is just insane for the level of detail they have in that game. And that same level of rendering technique is now coming over to the Modern Warfare Call of Duty series on their new engine. And basically the way photogrammetry works is that they actually take real-world objects and they do 3D scans of the objects, and then they can give you a very realistic representation, pretty much the most realistic representation of an object that you can possibly have. As I said, they did this in Battlefront using things from the Lucas Vault, bringing in actual things like blasters and weapons and other things like that, and actually scanning them so that when you see them in the game, they're pretty much photorealistic compared to what you would have seen in the actual films. Quoting Joel Esmail, the art director at Infinity Ward, he had this to say: "You'll get really close to walls, and when you see things up close, the detailed tiling technique where you can really notice the detail. You're probably familiar with 16 or 32 pixels per inch. This will be 64 pixels per inch, almost as real as it gets." So when it comes, whether or not you like Call of Duty or not, hopefully they do some changes with the gameplay here, but I think there's going to be no doubt about it that the graphics on Call of Duty Modern Warfare will definitely be the best we've seen in the series, and also probably a very significant jump with what we've seen even in Call of Duty Black Ops 4 from last year on this new engine. When you combine that with the photogrammetry, DirectX ray tracing, and all of that, Call of Duty has needed a graphical upgrade for a very long time. They've been running on the Quake engine forever, and that is an old game. They're still using it. Performs well, it does what they want, but I think they've finally heard the complaints of fans wanting a graphical improvement in their games. So hopefully they do that, and also take some feedback as well in terms of gameplay stuff, and get kind of back to its roots where they were back when Call of Duty Modern Warfare actually released. Still probably the best of the series for me, but let me know down in the comments below what your favorite Call of Duty was. I loved Modern Warfare, Black Ops, and then also World at War was also really good. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was probably one of my favorites as well, but let me know yours down in the comments below. Next up, Intel has released a new one-click performance maximizer app, which is pretty much just called that, Intel Performance Maximizer, or IPM. Kind of sounds like IBM. Let's get back to this right now. I don't know. I was trying to think of some type of initials there. Forget about it. Let's get into it. So, one-click overclocking tool, basically something like we've seen in BIOSes for ages from different board manufacturers. Be able to one-click your CPU. You can also do RAM as well and all of that, and it's been around forever. But the problem with them usually is they can tend to apply a ton of voltage and resulting in a lot of heat instability. But they are saying that this is going to be smarter. It's going to take into account a lot of factors and run this lengthy test, which can take over an hour to actually analyze your CPU as it begins going back and forth with different clock speeds, different voltages, to try to find the best settings possible for your CPU. So this will mostly be for people that don't know how to overclock, don't want to learn how to overclock, or maybe scared to overclock. They could press one button and get a little bit of a boost in performance. The caveat on this is extremely limited in its scope for who can actually use it. So it is going to be limited to only right now 9th gen, presumably eventually 10th gen processors. But right now only it's going to be on the 9th gen series of processors with K SKUs. You also need to have a Z390 motherboard, so you can't be using a Z370. You need at least 8 gigabytes of RAM, 16 gigabytes of storage on your system, and you need to be on Windows 10 1809 or higher. So you basically have to have like a very new system that was probably built within the last 6 to 8 months to be able to utilize this, and then you can go ahead and use it. And also, Intel has actually updated their warranty protection program, so now you have a one-time fee that you can get for $20, and with that you basically get overclocking protection. So you can use it only one time for hardware failure, which they say would be due to catastrophic end-user overclocking. So if you are buying a 9900K, you can get an extra $20 option, and you could overclock that thing to your heart's content. And if you just completely decimate the CPU, then you get a replacement. That's actually not a terrible thing, but you can only use it once. But $20 is not too bad for an extended warranty. I've definitely seen extended warranties from retailers that cost way more than that, and probably might not even cover overclocking. So that's kind of nice that they are actually doing that now, especially with the launch of their new tool. I don't know what that says about their confidence in the overclocking tool if they're adding an extra warranty on top of the CPU just to protect against the CPU getting murdered by their own software. So That's all we've got here today for you guys on the PC gaming and tech news. I do look forward to your feedback, comments, and everything down below, as always, on today's news topics. I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, thank you for commenting, liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. I'll catch you all tomorrow for another video.